On today's Minute of the Apes, this entire room of assembled older white men, should any of them actually have their own fashion photo fitness model shoot?
Hello and welcome to Minute of the Apes, the daily podcast where we break down every minute of the Planet of the Apes movies, 1 minute at a time. I'm Todd. It's Monday, and I've got Richard and Sean. Thank you for being here and guesting with me today. You're never here. Oh, wait. Yeah, you're here every day. It's good to see y'all again.
Every day this week. Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. So we begin. Oh, hello. My dog decided to stand up while I was talking. Can you sit down? All right. Thank you.
Yeah, we're at Todd's house.
Yeah, we're at Todd's house, and the big 80...
Did you hear
just heard that growl. That's Jake. That's my 85-pound Basset Hound Golden Retriever mix, who is affectionately known as Chewbacca, and I felt like I just had Chewbacca stand up between my legs. We'll talk about that another time. All right, we're at minute 21. Sean, tell us what's going on.
All right, we're going to start minute 21 with Cornelius saying, "I have from the beginning," and ends with the assembled generals and leaders saying, "Zoo?"
All right, let's take a listen to minute 21 of Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
I have from the beginning.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Mr. President. I'm aware that what I have to tell you may conceivably create a credibility gap somewhat wider than the Grand Canyon. Nonetheless, it is true. Yesterday, a U.S. spacecraft splashed down off the Southern California coast. It was one of two that have been missing in space for over 2 years now. To be exact, the one commanded by Colonel Taylor.
Have they identified the bodies, Mr. President?
They have identified 3 bodies, yes. All living. At the time of their rescue, through an unfortunate accident, one of them was killed early this morning in the Los Angeles Zoo.
Zoo?
All right, as of minute 21, we have a planet's worth of humans, plus 2 living apes and 1 dead ape.
So I'm going to toss out, as we watch the minute there, and forgive me for swallowing beer while I talk, but this minute starts with an odd thing of an odd camera shot, a very high angle, looking down upon the most powerful humans on the Earth possibly.
Right before we get to that, we have
you're right. It does. Damn it does start with that.
We got like 10 seconds of apes just staring at each other.
Yeah, because we didn't finish Friday's conversation about what happens here.
You're right. I was so excited about the insignificance of the president, in my opinion. However, what I'm going to toss it to, and you had things that you wanted to say about lighting and things like that. I'm going to start with, is Stevie borderline mute? Because every time we turn to her, she's just kind of
smiling. So
she didn't go to medical school for 4 years to be called Stevie.
Is that what it is? This is a great reduction of who I am.
Yeah.
So we talked about this sudden flip from Zira last episode, and I was like, is she manipulating him? Is she playing him because she's a psychiatrist to get into his better graces? Because it was just such a sudden flip from my friend is dead and I hate this gorilla and
we love this guy.
You.
Yeah,
we're
besties.
Your little comedy right here talking about primitive just kind of warmed me up a little bit, and I'd like to get to know you. But then Cornelius adds on top of that, I have from the beginning, and you're like,
what the hell? Where did we get any indication of that?
This is a real jump from Dane. We talked about some moments here and there, but that's a real just sudden flip of I don't trust you. I'm going to play your game. I'm doing all these things. Our friend just died. Let's be friends.
Yeah. Very strange.
But at the same time, I think they're kind of trying to show Cornelius and Zira are very much of the accepting kind of person. They think of how quickly they
took care of Taylor.
Yeah, how quickly they loved him. I mean, really, when did they develop a love for him? It was more of we're trying to understand him, we're compassionate towards him, but love is that wow.
Yeah. Love is an active emotion.
Right.
Just like hate is an active emotion.
Once Cornelius says, I have from the beginning, you look at Zira, and Zira's, Kim Hunter's kind of squeezed her eyes a little bit more to kind of give kind of the wrinkle and the glimmer in her eye. As she looks at Cornelius as she says this, again, we mentioned the lighting. She is lit up. They want all that light on her face, even though she's standing just an inch or two behind Cornelius. And then, Lewis, Dr. Dixon, does this thing where he turns and looks to Dr. Brent and Stevie, for like some kind of like assurance or hey, we're good, and she just kind of smiles. To your point, she just suddenly mute like
he looked at her to say, "Look, these apes like me, not you, motherfucker."
I'm looking into even future things. I'm beginning to see something that it may be the Stevie smile. She may be like what the what did we call him, staring ape or whatever from the first one?
The gaping ape.
Gaping ape. She just occasionally has a.
Well, then
it's a Stevie.
Then it comes back to the two of them again and again. Cornelius is just looking very matter of fact, and Zira has that kind of, she's smiling. She's smiling from under that mask. I don't know if you can see that because it's kind of hard to do. And this movie is definitely one where we get to see.
They can't really do a smile in that mask.
She's doing everything she can with her eyes, and we'll see this.
But it works.
We'll see this more throughout this picture that she's using everything she can to give that sense of happiness. So she's smiling under this mask. It's kind of neat.
And I think that when you do that, it raises the cheekbones and it insinuates that mouth is doing that because the snout doesn't
so big out.
And it's also not rigid, but it wouldn't have the ability to flex in a smile.
It may be latex, but it's still hard.
I do wonder. Now I know they did with the Burton apes. They kind of updated it so you didn't use as much of a bottom snout. You use your actual lip
mouth,
a little bit more. I wonder today if Chambers were here and to do these kind of things, if that wouldn't be something where you really adhered it more to the face so it could even have that further. But I think what she does with it, I think we were seeing two actors that have learned how to manipulate that stuff. Because I even think Cornelius's look is a very knowing, loving, caring look when he looks at Zira.
Particularly because we just dealt with Milo, and even though Milo's makeup was he couldn't move it as much as the two of them could.
Poor Milo. Yeah, he can't do anything now.
Yeah. Dead ape.
Okay, so we leave this and we finally go to my scene that drives me a little bit batshit crazy. Not only because it's a weird angle choice, but this entire scene is nothing but the Obi-Wan Kenobi explaining to Luke about the Force scene, where we have to force a bit of storytelling in something, catch you
deliberately nebulous so that they can surprise people later.
Well, we're in the Oval Office. Mm-hmm. This is where this is supposed to be. We begin with the shot, as you mentioned, that's kind of up above. Mm-hmm. And you've got 1, 2, 3, you've got 4 men sitting down, and you've got another 9 men standing, some in suits, a few military personnel, and they're all kind of having that hyper chatter hubbub conversation happening, something going on that they're, so there's activity in the room. But to your point, it's shot
very high angle, so you can see the tops of everybody's heads, and it looks very awkward. So I think the reason that's shot high instead of low. So usually if you're going to do high, it makes the person in the frame look insignificant, low, smaller, less powerful.
Big. All right.
The reason they may not shoot it low instead to make these people look powerful is because the light grid is above it, and if you shoot high, you're going to see the lights.
You
if
would.
you shoot low, you would
see. So we assume this is a set that they've built, and they just don't want to see the. And that's
I don't think they went to the Oval Office. No.
Not only that, they don't even seem to have a reverse angle because we don't ever see the opposite side of the room. It's always shot that one direction.
Yeah.
But what they've had enough production stuff in this that's on a set that I'm surprised they didn't at least crane it.
Wait a second.
And come down to a level, do something to give a little production value?
They might see the light grid at the top. I mean, Citizen Kane, they already figured that problem out, how to shoot low and have the ceiling.
Yes, but now you're having to build a ceiling, and they probably didn't even want to do that. You're absolutely right. If you had Greg Toland shooting this, it would have been fixed.
A different movie,
Well, one of the things that I pointed out is there's a mirror on the opposite end by the fireplace, opposite the desk. And believe it or not, we actually, as the scene moves through, they do intentionally get a shot of the president on one side. Then when they shoot to the flash of men, you actually see the president in the mirror.
And
that's very intentional.
Yeah. And it's nicely framed because he's not just dead set mirror. He's a little to the left, so it even has a nice composition of where he is in the mirror. So it's very smartly done.
So the president walks into
and by that time, the levels of the shots have kind of normaled out. Yeah. We've gotten to average shots.
So the president walks in, and you hear everybody go, Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr. President, kind of that kind of general stuff. He's being trailed by somebody, right? And it's in this minute. The gentleman behind him is kind of lingering, but then they actually do a shot. He leans against the chair to the left side of the desk and kind of stands there, and we get a shot of him. And it feels like it's kind of telling us that this is somebody.
Somehow.
Who is this person? Is he the vice president? Is he's a secretary of some kind, an advisor, an aide?
He's somebody important enough to enter with the president and stand by his side as he addresses all of his leaders, his chiefs of staff, and military personnel.
And then can we all just take a second and try to imagine a president with a credibility gap? I mean,
what? That would never happen, would it?
How could that ever happen?
But it's an interesting choice. He's kind of forewarning them that he's about to say something
Some crazy shit.
interesting that's going to create a credibility gap. Now we've watched the first 20 minutes. We know what he's talking about, but it's a really odd choice of saying it may create a credibility gap.
You know what? If they had put this scene first in the movie, being nebulous would have been fine, and then you cut to the ship, and you say, then flashback to go to the apes, and then you start the story, and then you come back. Milo's dead. I don't like this guy. Then you cut back to this scene. I find
it odd that this scene is so expository when it really should be that they're starting to get information from there that these apes can talk, they can do all this stuff, and it should be almost one of those walking, talking shots where they're giving the president papers. Mr. President, we're hearing this. There should be some urgency because he walks in, crosses his arms, well, gentlemen, and he's all he's doing.
This bullshit.
Yeah, and usually it would be the heads of the military because their military people are overseeing this that were relaying the information to the president. Mm-hmm. I just found the delivery of the information from the person to the person odd. Is where it's come from. But so we get into that. He tells them that they have found one of the two missing spacecrafts that have been missing for over 2 years.
So this is some history that they give us here. This is putting a timeline to some of the stuff that we've thought about before.
We officially know where we are, when we are. We at least know all of that has happened in their world already.
Correct.
I think we're starting to get just a scotch more information on what the actual mission was, because there are two missing ships. The plan was going to the future, like they're in hypersleep or something. But were they supposed to just hang out? I mean, again,
it's still very, you know, in the great nebulous, to use your frame, we are in the nebulous of the information.
Yeah.
They don't have to. They don't have to define it. Ultimately, it's not about that mission. That mission is nothing more than a MacGuffin to an extent.
MacGuffin,
but what I found immediately interesting is that he referenced that it was one of the ones with Colonel Taylor, but said nothing about Brent. So Brent's the bitch of this.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they say Colonels Taylor and Brent?
Well, they didn't expressly say what Colonel Taylor's mission was, or what the second aircraft was meant to do. I think the audience is supposed to infer that because, Brent kind of gave us a sense that they were chasing Taylor, right? A little bit of a sense. Right. But you're right. They don't mention Brent. I mean, nobody cares about Brent. Let's just face it.
This also, I think, confirms some of our theories that they did actually find Taylor's ship, because that's the one that they're referencing.
True. Okay, that's because
a good
we
know Brent's ship was destroyed,
was burned. Yeah,
and Taylor's sunk,
underwater.
So somehow they were able to.
But wouldn't it actually
it up?
Because you get into Game of Thrones having the mysterious chains that lift the dragon up? Wouldn't it have been easier to explain that Brent's craft was the one that they used, that they somehow, because it was laying on land, instead of raising something up out of the water and making the systems? Odd choice.
Yeah.
They just wanted to forget the second movie.
Yeah, they're making no reference.
That's why Brent's not mentioned.
You could have made it more poignant for Taylor if you said, they could all go, was it Taylor? Was it Taylor? Sadly, this was Brent's ship. You could really do that. Taylor's still missing.
And again, the president just being a straight up dick, not being so nebulous and not telling them that there are apes in there.
Right.
Just 3 people came out.
He's just teasing people. At this point, he's nut slapping them all, kind of go, hey.
No, I mean, every single line, right? It's like, have they identified the bodies? They have identified 3 bodies.
Yeah, it's like,
all living at the time of the rescue. Though by an accident, one was killed early this morning in the Los Angeles Zoo. I mean, the president is like, this is like, if he had more dramatic pauses, this would have been a comedy delivery. This would have been a stand up.
Well, I want to make a note to Sean right now.
Uh-huh.
Hey, don't take a drink of beer right before Richard begins doing his William Shatner acting impersonation, because I just took a drink and he went, they found 3 bodies. I almost spewed beer all over you at that point. That was very well done. Very well done.
Thank you. I don't think I was trying for Shatner, but
you really had that.
You
bodies.
evoked it, yes.
But I mean, that's what he was doing. He was kind of just like unloading these things one at a time.
Yeah.
And it just didn't have the pauses that they needed to kind of bring it home as a comedy.
Absolutely.
But I mean, that's the thing we're toying with right now with this film. Outside of a couple of dramatic moments, we're kind of supposed to believe this is supposed to be funny in areas. So maybe this was intended by Dane to be funnier than this gentleman delivers it.
I do think that's a good point.